Kia ora, te tia mana, te chair. Kia ora tātou, ki te tūwhera I tēnei hui o te ata nei, ino I tātou, let us pray. He honore, he kororia, manga rongo ki te whenua. He tō mātou maturnitara, rangi kia tapu tō ingo. E pāe e whakawheta ana mātou ki a koe, mo tēnei wā mō tō aroha, tō manakitanga, kia mātou kua hui mai I tēnei rā, I runga te kaupapa nei. Arahi tia mātou e koe, e roto e nei mahi, ko ihu karaiti tō mātou kai whakaora, āke, tonu āke, āmene. Kia ora mai tātou.
Tēnā tātou katoa tuatai mia te kia koe puhi. Whakatūtara whata ki te rungarau, ta tīmatanga ngā me katoa. So reira tēnā pu. Mia te kia koe, mia te ki tō tātou ki Māori ki tu hei te noho mai rā, te ahurewa ta pōna mātou tūpuna. Tēnā maka ariki o ti rāta pare kāhuri ariki. Whānu tunu, pai mare ki rāta tau e kia tātou katoa.
Pai mare.
So I begin the acknowledgements by just acknowledging Puhirake for his prayer. And acknowledge that we acknowledge our spiritual realm. And then secondly, we acknowledge our Māori King, King Tuheitia, who resides upon the throne of his ancestors, his wife, Tatawhai, the wider royal household, say Pai Māori Ki Rāte, Tau Ki Tāte Pato. Good and peace and goodwill upon them, upon us also. Ore piki mai kake mai nau mai hara mai rā, I ngā komiha. Ko te rā ngā rangatira, o whakarite mai rātou tātou, whaia ananaia, ki hara mai koutou ki roto tēnei whale, tēnei taone, hei whakatika rā, ki whakapauna me te mona kai mui a tātou, ki tere pai te kārohi ruhi o tātou waka. Nau mai, hara mai. Tēnā koe te upoho tēnei tira, ki a koe en, mi atu ki a koe anō, ako mihi atu mātou ki runga tō mātou marae I haere. I tūtaki tāo I runga e te ngā hui, engari e kaupapa hau tēnei, ko tai mai kōtou ki te manaki, pene te mihi atu ki a koe. A ki a koe hoki Bill, Stephen, me tō tātou tangata nei, a Shadrach. E runga te rongo, kei te hare pai kōtou, e mahi tahi kōtou. Tō reira nau mai, hara mai. So a privilege again to just welcome our commissioners to our standing committee. And while we've welcomed you officially through the Tangata Whenua gates up at Haideni Marae, we've met at different occasions. It's right that we acknowledge you and welcome you here to this, our standing committee, Tangata Whenua and City Council. We acknowledge the four of you, each one of you. And so far, it looks like you're working pretty good together, Bill, so smart growth, smart men, smart plan ahead. Thanks. So, ai, ko ana mātou ngāka, ko hara mai kōtou, ai ki te whakarongo o mātou kaupapa, ai wero mātou I runga o tātou tāone nei. Ore runga tērā, noa, nau mai hara. Me te miata ki tēnei tangata hau ko whakaki te tūranga Hayden Henry, kia koe e Nathan, te kuku, hara mai, hara mai, hara mai. E kia atu, ko tua mai te tai, ko pari ata te tai, ko tua mai, ko pari ata, ana ko tai koe, ki runga tēnei tātahi o tātou. Nau mai hara mai me o pūkena, me o whiako, me o mohiotanga. Heia, mō te iwi, e ara mō Māti kuku nei, engari, mō tauranga mōna. So we're also privileged today to welcome a new member to the standing committee that's replacing one of our older members. And Nathan James is from a little marae across the waters there called Whareroa. And the hubby there is Ngāti Kuku. So I'm pretty sure he has much to say about some of the things that are happening around his little marae, but and that's the purpose of our hui here today, to hear what we have to say and how you might be able to assist and help us to bring some resolution or direction to the things we want to achieve. Nore mia te kia koe, whai atu koe o te tapu wai o mātou tupa. Engari hau ko te wai, hui tahi ai tātou. te kaupapa hui tahi tātou kāre mā te ware ki o tātou tini aitu. A ma te huhua. A tērei takoto mai rai. I ngai tamarawa neke atu ki tu kairangi. A moi moia neke hana. Nā tēnei rangi kai te takoto mai tētai i te roa tātou marae. Whetu o te rangi. Nō tino atu kia kota mai ki roti o kota ngāko o kota wairo. A mate i tangi e nei e kota. Whāri ki tia nei waingi ni mātu te papai takoto nei. Tā piri atu ki o mātu ai te tangi tahi tātou ki a rāta ai ngā mate hare kota. Ingari hoki mai rā ngā mihi ki a tātou te hungora te mahu e tangu. So no matter where we might gather together and for whatever purpose we might gather, we never forget those that have gone before us. Those are the ones that have paved the way in many instances. Those that we have loved and cherished. Those that have gone before their time. And today we invite you to bring with you in your hearts and in your memories those that you have sent on, whether it was yesterday, last week, last month, many years ago. Lay them spiritually and emotionally before us to join with those that we weep for. Here in Tauranga Mona, and we have a tangi there at Whetu today, and we say to them that the dead, the dearly departed, farewell, farewell, farewell. But we bring back our greetings to ourselves here, the living. Ma mata pe whakiki ngā whāluru i wai te rata. I tutu ki rā ngā moi moia o rata, e whaihua moa wa moi moia. And so we say to them farewell, but to us, the living, we again acknowledge each other. Maybe it's in our hands and our capabilities to be able to fulfill some of the dreams and the aspirations that they had that they were not able to fulfill during their time. But time will tell whether we are able to do that or not. Inga te mea nui, ana ko hui tahi tātou i runga te karanga o tēnei whare. Ringa te karanga o te mona, a tangata o te mona, tangata katoa, e maha tunu ngā tangata i noho nei waingia tātou tēniwa, nei rātou tātou hui mo rātou katoa. And so we gather here today to again support the different challenges that we have in the city from another perspective. That these challenges that we have is not just for the Māori people, for the Pākehā people, but it's for all the ethnicities that have chosen Tauranga Mona to be their home, to be welcoming, to be supportive, and to be caring. Nō ringa tērā, kuri noto tātou whare, tēnā kōta. I atu ki tēnei rangatira o tātou a Māti. I ki nei tēnei tūranga e wero nui, mō tēnei tūranga, ana ko ki tātou tana pūkenga puta mai, mō nā mātua o he prihi mani ngā wā o mua, tō whakatāni e ao, kai taha koe land, e tō whananga pē tēnei. So we look forward to a good synergy happening between the both of them. And so we acknowledge our chief here today, Martin. Time he's been here so far, we've been clearly supported by him. He's always been very gracious in the way he's dealt with us in our huis here, so we just want to acknowledge you again, Martin, today. An ex-policeman, so he's had plenty of dealings with Māoris, I'm pretty sure, in the past. And we won't say what sort of Māoris, but living at Whakatane and at Ho'ope, I'm sure they've crossed paths down there some time before. But again, just all of us here gathered together, the staff from the City Council, under this new regime. I hope you haven't been too disturbed in your seats, but that you're looking forward to the challenges they offer you as well. So once again, kārukumu te roa ngā kōre ngā mia te kia tātou tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou, ākero tātou katoa. I don't think we've received any apologies today, so no apologies, no public forum. Chairperson's report. This is basically a verbal report I give every time we have a hui. Bit off the top of the head, but it's okay. I think I'm just starting with 4 little topics. There might be little in some people's eyes, but quite big in a lot of other people's eyes. So we talk about, firstly, we go to the heavens and we talk about the Anglican apology. So the Anglicans realised after some research that was done and after some meetings we've had, Lord Tamataha Trust, that they were in breach of good faith. And so they've been instrumental in leading this whole apology presented by the Anglicans. So we've received a verbal apology from them. It's a bit like the government today, they settle a claim and they always give a verbal apology, but it's kind of hard to get them to put some feet and some hands and some presence to those apologies. And so we're now working on the next stage from the Anglicans' apology in terms of, well, what does that mean in terms of something physical, something that's of that recognises the commitment. It's not just words, but it's a commitment to the iwi that were disenfranchised at that time. And as a church, and the leading part that the church played in the Treaty of Waitangi, I think they feel they have an honourable obligation to meet that challenge that is before them today in terms of the apology. And so there's this kind of a synergy working between the council here. How can the council be involved? Because at the moment it's pretty much under their guardianship, the lands that we're discussing. And but that's part of the ongoing discussions and ongoing challenges that you might have to face and will face, and engaging with the appropriate people to make some real and defined outcomes that are going to be sustainable, they're going to be permanent, not just something temporary like a little bandage over a sore. But I'm sure you've got the talent within your grouping. Cedric and Bill, of course, would have a more understanding of the issues there, and with their long association with Tauranga Morning, the planning consents that they've been involved with, and smart growth, and so we look forward to the outcome for that. Just want to acknowledge the council for the homeless, the attitude towards the homeless, because we've got quite a number in Tauranga Morning. I'm also involved in Oranga Tamariki, so we've had a long, what's the right terming, without just being discourteous to them, but a family that has been on the books for some 20 years, and we're down to the third generation. Just this whole homelessness and the whole lifestyle they've led, that's led them to that, and it's about trying to get them to recognise that they have to take some responsibility for the position that they're in. They've been constantly blaming everybody else for their situation, but we had a professional consult on Friday, but there's a family that's been living at the QE2 park down there. I think they were located up here by the courthouse previously, the Wharepai, and then the council asked them graciously to move down to QE2, and they've been there for some time living in a tent, and the tents that they have are not the real good quality, and so they've always leaked, and so every time the rain comes they've been flooded out, and they've got to throw away all their bedding and just hope for other people. But I have to say to the wider community of Tauranga Morning that they've been very supportive when we've asked for help, that people, some of the people that they've sort of denigrated in many ways are the people that have actually helped them. And so it's a challenge, and that's just one family. So the weekend we've been able to get them another house, but they've already been through about 4 houses. They're well known in terms of the housing providers and how they treat their houses that they had. And so this is the last chance opportunity. They've got a house on Friday. We've been to locate them. One of the daughters, and she's about 23, and met somebody on Facebook and got together. I think it was just this whole emotional loneliness, and produce a baby, kids having babies, and so we've been able to get them to move out of Tauranga up to Auckland. But again, just at the council, the way they haven't put the hard word on them, haven't put pressure on them to move out of where they are, so we just want to acknowledge that as well. But I think housing is going to be a great challenge for us for many years to come in terms of our Tauranga Morning. And of course, when you look over the harbour there, and one of the prime contributors to the economy of our nation is the Port of Tauranga. And sitting under the shadow of the Port of Tauranga is a little marae called Whareroa. prior to the port of Tauranga being developed in the 1950s, the only shadow that cast over them was their moa. And they would always get spiritual healing when the shadow of the mount came over them, so it was no issue. But today, they're surrounded by these commercial and industrial issues that are impacting on their health and their well-being. And so there's some ongoing discussions about that. How can the council be proactive in supporting some of the challenges that Ngāti Kuku have put before the different courts? I think there's a mediation process at the moment going through, that's going through in terms of the silos. New fuel silos that we're going to build there, I think they were going to be 40 metres or 20 metres and then drop down to 16 just to mitigate, or we'll take 4 metres off the top of whatever it was. And hopefully that'll appease you. But they want them removed totally. And somehow try to get a residential zoning widened around their marae and to remove the commercial industrial zoning that is at the moment. But that's a bit of a David versus Goliath fight. I think they've already used 4 stones and there's only got 1 stone left. So it's going to be a challenge. But we know that the port also is a great provider for the economy of our nation, not just for Tauranga, but for the nation. And so that's something we would appreciate you being involved with, and I'm sure Ngāti Kuku with their new rep here will be able to discuss with you further some of the issues that they face, and maybe his first meeting you could give him a nice report to take back to these whānau that they'll be satisfied that he's the right man to be sitting at this table, to encourage him. And we need affirming and we need encouraging everybody that sits at tables like this, and a lot of the people at home in the marae, they have no idea what's involved. But you just say, oh, you go and do it, but when you go and do something, they're the first ones to chop you down as well. That's human nature, I think. Doesn't matter what, even if you're in the National Party, they do the same thing, So it's political. And so that's just something. And the last thing is the pokai. Now the pokai is a institution of the King Exarn that was instilled by their second Māori king, Tāwhiao, for the pani Pauaru in the Rawakore. 1870s, when he went to England to have an audience, tried to have an audience with the Queen over there, but he was denied that opportunity. And so when he came back, he said, I went away as a Māori, I've come back as a Māori, and I'm going to institute this kaupapa, or this theme, to feed the lost, the last and the least, basically, of his tribe. And that's carried on for today, and here in marae, our marae at Huria, we've supported that for the last 70 odd years. He was one of our great chiefs of our marae, Maharai Whenua, a scholar and educationalist. He was instrumental of being one of Te Puia's little, I suppose you could call it disciples, and she sent him overseas to Oxford, I think it was. He was one of the first marriage to graduate. And so that's here in Tauranga Water, so you're welcome to come along if you want to. And we can make accommodation for you to be there to support. I was down to Kuiti yesterday, and Pokai, same thing. So they had the mayor of the town there. He was the first time, but he was in Bowles' government, Robertson from Papatoetoe, I think it was. He was a member of the caucus when Tainui settled their claim. I mistook him for Bolger actually, but I looked at him after, no, Bolger's not that young. So, but that's happening on Saturday, so you're welcome. 10 o'clock the King comes on, but you can come along and be Tangata Whenua with us. Come there at 9:30. So let yourself known to Buddy, he's the chief from Ngai Tamalawaka, and you'll be able to get your front row. So with those few words, that's my report today. Anybody want to receive that? Moved by Puhiraka, seconded. Buddy, kia ora, Buddy. Anybody want to question? Any questions? Kia ora, Tiria?
Ata Māori e whānau. I just want to follow on from the Chair's report in regards to homelessness. There are some people who are homeless who choose to be homeless, and there are people who are homeless who have no choice. The whānau down that are homeless are actually scattered all over Tauranga Moana. I do know of 4 families with tamariki that are actually living on the harbour down Turret Road. So Tauranga Moana is in a housing crisis, and I think it takes a lot of partners to come together, local and central government and community. Nobody's actually been out and discussed it with those who are homeless about how it's been affecting them. Government's putting money into motels to put homeless in there. Why don't they put it into something else by buying houses to put people in those houses? So, you know, there's a lot of factors that are happening here, and to me, I just don't think it's right. And I don't think it's good for our city either, you know, but, you know, we just need to actually be a bit more proactive. Affordability is not even a word anymore. So, yeah, I think there needs to be some bit more action on all of us to try and, you know, get a bit more, you know, response into dealing with the housing crisis in Tauranga Moana. Kia ora.
Oh, kia ora, Matida. I just want to acknowledge your hapu up there, Tamapahole as well, our Pōtiki, for the housing development they've provided there. I mean, it's housing of quality. So many of our whānau have only been able to put up houses that after a few years look like, oh, we should have did something else. But it's all about what you have in your budget, what you have in your pūtea to be able to do that. So our Pōtiki was their tupuna had lands that today are very valuable, and that they've been able to utilise those lands to be able to provide the housing and the quality of those houses that they have today. I think in the last week when the government released their financial packages about housing and all that they've some talk about talking to the local governments to kind of ease up on some of the consents and restrictions that might have been applied normally, but just to help to get people into houses, papakai and that sort of thing. So, yeah, kia ora. Pui. Okay, also alarm. Any further questions? Kapai. No further questions. So we've been moved that in the second that my verbal report be tabled and received. And everybody in favour? It's a little weak eye, but I thought it'd be a bit more powerful than that. But okay, I'll take it. Any late items? Anybody want to table a late item? None? Right. Confidential business to be transferred into the open. Have you any confidential business that you want to reveal? Nil? Great, we're going along good. Change to the order of business. Anybody want to change the order? None? That's great. The minutes of the Tangata Whenua Committee meeting held on the 22nd of October 2020. Are there any corrections you want to? You've all received these minutes. You've all had the opportunity to read them.
I'll move them as true and correct.
Thank you, Fudi. Second by Atiria. Moved by Fudi, second by Atiria. Okay, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Carried unanimously. Any declarations of interest? Or conflicts of interest, really? None? Or your sticky page. Ten one in straight into business. 10-1 Maori Wards, staff Carl here, manager Democracy Services, supported by Mr. Carlo Ellis. Kia ora.
Morena tātou, tuatahi kei te mihi atu ki a koe hui kākahu. Nau i Whakahaere tēnei hui, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koe. Ki a koe hoki puhi, nau I whakatūwhera I raro I te kaupapa o tō tātou atua. Nō reira tēnei te mihi. Ki a tātou katoa, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou. Ngā karangaranga maha, I wanganui a tātou. Tēnei rangi māku, engari kei konei mātou ki te whakawhiti koro e pāna I nei mea. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou. Just introducing our report for today regarding Māori wards. Just like to acknowledge Coral and her team have pulled together the detail for it. A little bit of context to it. We've obviously had a bit of a journey regarding Māori wards, but a lot has changed since this group last met. So it's an opportunity to give an update on the details following some of the changes to legislation, and also an opportunity for the Rangapu members to have a discussion with the commissioners. So I'll pass over to Coral to talk through the detail of the report.
Kia ora, ko Coral here, taku ingoa. So the report I really will probably take as read. I'll just highlight a couple of issues really. There's a number of options now with the changes to the legislation with the Local Electoral Māori Ward and Māori Constituency Amendment Act that came in and came into force on the 2nd of March. The Council, as you know, has already resolved to establish a ward, but you now have an opportunity to revisit that decision. So there's three options available there to you. And I suppose that's really all I want to say, is that it's the legislation has changed the options available to council now, and it's really designed particularly for those councils who didn't have the opportunity to even make a decision about Māori wards. So some councils, if they had previously had a poll, weren't even able to consider it this time round for the 2022 elections. So it's really opened that up for those councils who haven't been in the running to do that, it's really just made it, as you know, a lot easier for councils when they do make a decision about Māori wards. The binding poll provisions no longer exist, we did receive a valid poll, as you know, and that poll has been cancelled because of the legislation. So I'm happy for Carlo and I to answer any questions. Kia ora.
Thank you, Coral. Can we just look, please, at page 22 and the little footnote there, which sets out the numbers required to, end up with a decision on the number of wards there will be. So, am I assuming that to establish a new ward, you need at least 13,600 electors? Is that how I read that? So we've got 15,300 Māori electors at the moment, right? So in order to have 2 Māori seats, we need to make up that number again.
Basically, that number is it's set. The formula is set out in the legislation. So we just get given the numbers from the local electoral commission. So yeah, but basically you do need to increase numbers on that Māori. Well, it's not a Māori. It's the population of the district. It's not actually just those people that are on the Māori roll. So I just want to make that distinction. Yeah.
So does that 15,300 number include babies, children, students, that kind of thing?
Yes, that's my
Other
understanding.
Māori people living here from somewhere else?
Potentially, yes. It's not just those people who are on the Māori roll.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you determine that number?
Those are the numbers that are provided to us by the local government commission. So Stats New Zealand give those numbers through. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm assuming that is from the 2018, 2018 stats, but you then do population estimates, so the latest ones were 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
So they've been upgraded from the 2018 census.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? We'll ask for a mover and a seconder for Coral's report.
Sorry, I think there's a few options in her report that we actually need to go through before we actually move Coral's report, especially on page 24. There's 3 options.
Okay,
We
well,
can get that opportunity.
lead it. You lead them.
Your options, so perhaps you can actually lead us.
So there are 3 options that are available to you under the new legislation. So you can establish a Māori ward, but the council's already made that decision. So basically, you don't have to do anything. The decision has been made. It's really for the commissioners to really uphold that decision, I suppose, and they can make that. That's an option to uphold the decision, but you don't have to actually go and make a new decision. It's already been made for you by the previous council. You can revoke the earlier decision. So again, that legislation has, you've got these transition provisions till the 21st of May. So you have the option to revoke the decision. And I've given you some information around that option, or both those options. And then the third option is to hold a non-binding referendum, because the referendums are no longer binding. And what that would do is that would give you some information to inform a decision, but it wouldn't it's not like the binding polls of previously where you had to stick with the poll results. And I've given you some financial information about how much that would cost. And then I haven't made any recommendations. I've just left that for the committee to consider. Did you want to say anything, Carla?
Kia ora through you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, because we don't have a council as such, of elected members and mayor. So will the commissioners actually make that decision in terms of these 3 options?
Yes, the commissioners act as the council, so they make the decision.
Just one thing to add. So, yeah, it's the commissioners that will make this decision. As you know, this is an advisory committee, but it'd probably be useful if Tangata Whenua are clear with the commissioners and perhaps engage in a discussion about what your perspective is on those range of options.
Kia ora, Anne.
Morena, can I just check that the Commission doesn't actually have to make any decision if it decides to uphold the Council's previous decision? It doesn't need to come as a formal decision to be made at a formal Council meeting?
The process would be that this committee would make a recommendation to the Council on the 12th of April, and that the Council would consider that recommendation. It would probably be clearer if you could say what your decision is, so that you would either uphold the decision, or you would go for option 2 to revoke, or you would have a referendum before you make a decision. So it would be really helpful, I think, to actually, adopt the recommendation of the committee or otherwise on the 12th of April.
Kia ora, Bill.
Kia ora.
Whitty.
Coral, in terms of, I'm on page 22, the second recommendation, would something along these lines be appropriate? Recommends to the Council that the decision of 25 August 2020 to establish a Māori ward be confirmed. Is that be appropriate?
I think that's what the committee would want.
That wording would be fine. Yes.
Whitty.
Well, if that's the case, I'd like to move that.
You may.
Yeah,
Any seconder? Puhirake? All in favour? Aye.
Sorry, can I just get some clarity on what motion, what you're moving?
Beg your pardon?
Some clarity around what has been moved?
We'll have it typed up and put on the screen, but it's essentially reaffirming, it's encouraging and recommending to Council or the Commission that they reaffirm, yes, exactly.
What's already been confirmed by us previously. So we've got a move and a second, and we've got no more questions. Are you going to bring that up? Going to read it first? Sorry.
I had suggested recommends to the council, because I think the wording does have some significance in terms of this process. Recommends to the council that the decision of 25 August 2020 to establish a Māori board be confirmed.
Thank you.
It's important to recognise that previous decision.
Mr. Chair, is the point of that there, Commissioner Wolseley, is to make sure it happens in 2022? Like, I understand from reading the options that you could have chosen to make it 2025, for example. So I think it's, yeah, so I think it's important to incorporate the 2022 number.
2022. Anybody want to discuss this? Any questions? Okay, Whitty, you moved it previously before any change was made. You still happy with this?
Yes.
Second now? Same. All in favour? Anybody against? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Just one more thing, Mr. Chair. I think we should move the report.
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay, want to move in a second that the Tangata Whenua Tauranga City Council Committee receives a report of Māori wards and recommends to the council an option available under local electoral Māori wards and Māori constituency amended Act 2021.
B gets replaced.
Oh, this replaces that.
So Whitty,
Yeah, they're both second.
So now,
So we're going to say this again. All in favour? Against? No abstentions. Great. Thank you. The motion is carried. We're just following up an agenda here. Our next, 10.2 is our next regarding meeting dates for 2021 from staff, Coral here.
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I think there was I think there's the next steps that are on page 26 on item 10.1. I think would probably be on the agenda for the next couple of meetings once the Commission has received this recommendation and approved it. Because the Commission now has to make the decision, and then we can come back and start talking about those next steps. Ka pai?
Kia ora, Madam Commissioner. Thank you for that. I totally agree with you, and it'll also give Tangata Whenua time to, in terms of some of those other things that we need to do in terms of regarding the ward, to get ourselves prepared, and so we look forward to that engagement between now and the final call by council in April. Thank you.
Just a clarification, in terms of that previous resolution, didn't include anything in option 3. So I've taken it that, given what we've passed, that the undertaking of a non-binding referendum has not been agreed to and is not to be actioned. I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear on that, and that's not a next step that we'll come back and consider.
Yeah, we're proposing to bring this paper to the Commission on the 12th of April for final decision.
Morena koutou. I just want to thank us all for this place where we've got today in regards to Māori wards. Appreciate we're going through some of the processes, but I just want to stop for that minute just to acknowledge that achievement in itself. In regards to the next steps, appreciate that it needs to come back to the commissioners, but I think for Tangata Whenua, I'd like to have that discussion and where that goes. I'm appreciative that we're saying we're going behind the doors and having a discussion and what that means, but I think it's good to put it on the floor, actually what that really means. I think we have done well in getting ourselves to the gate and actually unlocking the gate. Now the work commences. What that actually not only means for Tangata Whenua, mana whenua, is about getting our population to vote. I think in that self that's the realisation that we need to actually awaken for us today. We think that we've done the work, actually it's just begun. And I think it's great that those are the next steps going forward. But I think we do need to bring to notice, and thank you, Coral, for your report coming forward, is sometimes we get a little bit mixed up in this technical processes that we have to go through, but actually understanding the reality is that the work now needs to happen with our communities. And I want us all to realise that it's not just sitting here with Tangata Whenua. I just want to bring that forward as well. And it's an achievement, and it's not only for Māori. It's for all of our communities to understand that. And I just want to actually acknowledge that feather in the cap that we have at the moment. But there's a few more feathers that we need to put in that cap. So thank you for this stage and where we've got to. And that discussion to not only where we've got today, but what is to come. So yes, we've got a bit of work. And just thank you for that opportunity. Kia ora.
Good boy, cousin. Oh, sorry. You better go and see your cousins at the cinema next time you got a free. Put it on the council account. So no further discussions about that. So, Coral, we're going to go to 10.2 again. Try it again. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So this report is about meeting dates for 2021, and the council is still to finalise sort of a structure of meeting times. At the moment we've got 2 weekly council meetings, and we're looking at potentially 6 weekly meetings with committees in a further standing committee to be established, and that report will go to the 12th of April council. So it's kind of like, it does sort of interrupt. If we do go to the 6 weekly cycle, it does potentially interrupt the dates that have been set down, and so before the council makes any decisions, it needs feedback from this committee. Yeah.
Any questions? Matiria?
Kia ora, thank you, Coral. At the end of last year, we all sent the schedule of most of the meetings that Tangata Whenua representation are on, and a lot of us have actually accepted those Thursday meetings or even a Friday. For the majority of us sitting here, we can't really make Monday meetings. So I'm just saying that at this stage, that if we can, perhaps depending on everyone's schedule with the commissioners, that perhaps we can stick to the Thursday. Kia ora.
Ask the head of the commissioners to make a response.
Yes, thank you for that. Look, we do appreciate that you have made this morning available to meet and understand that that's at some considerable difficulty for the very reason that Matere outlines, that you had all had those dates last year and made those arrangements. And we've had a discussion this morning and we are very comfortable about keeping those original dates. And if that seems to be meeting approval. And the other thing, we know that we're on a slightly different schedule now with our council meetings, but we do think that we should stick with, even though we're meeting today, with that more informal marae-based meeting on the 15th of April. As per the schedule, we think that that's a good opportunity for us to start some of the work that has already been signalled that needs to start. And I am aware that 17th of June we've identified for LTP hearings, but I think we can work around that as well. So yeah, we're very happy to be continue those original meeting dates as outlined there through until the 21st of October 2021.
Julia?
I know in the past that we've had informal hui on marae. So I just wondered whether marae had actually been scheduled into the informal meeting, or are we going to have them here?
We were waiting on this decision to be able to confirm a booking there, but I think there's a desire to keep those informals on the marae, so Takawanga can arrange that on our behalf.
Goodbye. Any further questions? Well, thank you to the commissioners for being very gracious in readjusting your calendars, and that's a good sign that we're going to be working pretty well together. So appreciate that. Thank you. So the recommendation that the Tangata Whenua Taonga City Council Committee provides feedback on the meetings dates proposed for the committee for 2021. And the feedback has been minuted. All in favour? Did we have a mover and a seconder? I can't remember. Mover. Oh, we'll get the commission and to because we've got more mana when she moves it. You can be the seconder, Matidia. Is that okay? Or you don't want to defer to her?
I was just going to move that we retain the dates scheduled for 2021.
You'll second it too. You're mana too. So all in favour? Ka pai. Nobody against? Carried unanimously. .3 report, external report, Te Rangapu Mana Whenua o Tauranga Mona, Matidia Duncan, kia ora.
Tēnā koe. You have before you the report for Te Rangapu Mana Whenua o Tauranga Mona, and item 1 reflects the Tangata Whenua representation on Council Committee. And one of the things that we wanted to retain was the close relationship that we have with Tauranga City Council. And that Tangata Whenua representation, wanting to strengthen the Māori voice and to just demonstrate true partnership of this relationship. There are some exciting opportunities happening, and especially with the work that we've done in 2020. Some mahi is still work in progress or business as usual, one of them being Māori Ward. So we want to continue that engagement and having those discussions moving forward. And together, most importantly, is that we want to grow our city and our people. Tauranga Mona, Tauranga Tangata. So the current tangata whenua are represented in a number of te rangapū who we wish to maintain is this committee. There has been discussion about moving this committee into a wider committee as a whole. As most of us know that tangata whenua only have a recommendation or advisory capacity on this committee, so a few years we have been wanting to move this committee into a committee as a whole. And also representation on council committees where these 4 committees have now been disbanded, so we are concerned about the placement of our 4 tangata whenua members, and I note their names in my report, so we sort of want to see whether there's still a role for them on this in the council, and also the other was the representation on smart growth. So the future opportunities, as I mentioned, we've already discussed the Māori wards, and moving forward that commissioners will retain the decision made in August, and also to increase and retain Māori representation on Tauranga Council. So the Rangapu understands that the council committee structure has changed with the incoming commissioners, and that we want to look at retaining the positions of the 4 tangata whenua representatives. We've had our meeting. We had a meeting with the 4 tangata whenua committee representatives and myself, and it was very rewarding for us to actually be around the table and being at that same level of relationship. So we sort of may want to have that conversation down the track to see how that can be further implemented. And we've had a tangata whenua workshop update in regards to, and I'd like to thank the staff and the Takawainga unit for navigating us through some of these crucial issues and policies, in particularly, as I've noted in my report, consultation with mana whenua on resource consent application, city plan review, tangata whenua remuneration policy, road naming policy, plan changes 26, 27 and 30, acquisition disposal policy, which includes RFR, and the local government 101 workshop. And so we are really grateful to receive this engagement, and information will now be, some of the information that I've mentioned will now be published on our Te Rangapu website, and our respective, informed our respective iwi and hapu. Key priorities for the next coming months. We had a really good strategic planning workshop up at Haireni, and some really great ideas have come out in terms of moving the next 3 years, but even further out to 5 years or even 10 years. So we're still working on how we want to continue implementing the strategic plan, and some things have already been sort of good outcomes. So now it's looking at things moving forward for tangata whenua. We've been actively involved in the Three Waters reform. Thank you, Buddy, for organising the hui at Whetū on Thursday, and I think it really gave a tauranga mona and Te Arawaki Tai perspective on how it is for us here, and how we want to make sure that we're being engaged in that process. And then some of us also went over to Rotorua. It was huge hui on the Friday, so it was lucky that we actually had a rehearsal prior to that hui, because I think it was too many things happening, and a lot of questions were being asked, and from what I understand, is that some of the other tangata whenua like Te Arawa and a few other tribes really didn't have that engagement amongst themselves or that conversation amongst themselves. So I think they might have got lost in that process on Friday. So we were very fortunate that we had a rehearsal prior. Repeal of the RMA workshops. Once again, that's also an important issue for us, and we're keen to participate in discussions, and also thank Shad for actually taking us through some of that conversation. TCC LTP workshops is something that is we wanted to put in submissions, but we need to have those conversations on what those issues are before we can put in those submissions. But I just want to let the rest of the Rangapu members to actually make comment on the report. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Just the first one, the representation on council committees. I see here back on page 27 with the dates here, in the background, number 5. Is that what you're looking to do, is setting up another standing committee with those 4 members and our chair with you guys, or?
Yeah, so one of the discussions we've been having is how we retain that sort of hard-won vote, if you like, that you achieved, and so we are looking at setting up a standing committee of the council that will have commissioners and utilise those members' skills, and also we've got Bruce Robertson from a finance perspective. So we've got an independent voice, but we've also got mana whenua voice, and we're just working our way through that representation at the moment. We would also like to, because for the workshops on the long-term plan, we would very much like to have the chair of the Rangapu involved, and we're just talking about, we're going to be a bit outnumbered because there's only 4 of us, and we'd have then 6 externals on what looks like quite a big, chunky sort of subcommittee, standing committee. So we just need to have a bit of a talk ourselves about how we might manage that. We don't want to be outvoted. It'd be a bit embarrassing.
I see that. Sorry, the Three Waters reform. Yeah, I was surprised how big it was until when we seen our presentation at Whetu on Thursday, and then we went on Friday at Rotorua. And I realised myself that us as tangata whenua will have a good opportunity to work with the commissioners to go as one, either saying yes or no to this reform. Because I'd like us to go together, like, when we put in submissions or whatever, that we're supporting the council, whatever they're doing. So that's just an opinion of mine. And I was going to ask about workshops for the RMA with senior staff and the commissioners, but I see you've got it there, so kia ora.
Kia ora.
We are winning in, buddy.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to make a comment and I guess ask a question of the commissioners regarding the, just rechecking, it's under the section 3.F, acquisition and disposal policy, including RFR. My comment is that this take has been very, very significant to Tangata Whenua over many years. To a certain extent, it has a link to the treaty settlements that have taken place in Tauranga Moana and has been partially completed, waiting for the final, I think it's about 10-15% to be signed off. It is to do with our whenua. It is to do, albeit this is council land, not Crown land. So we've been working on this for a number of years. However, in the last, I think, 4 years, I think it has been, the whole of one term plus last year, in terms of re-looking at that acquisition and disposal policy. As Matere has already stated, we had workshops with the previous council regarding it, which were positive. And that brings me to my request to the current commissioners, is that we would like to really discuss this seriously with you, and for this to continue in terms of even getting a final outcome as such for Tangata Whenua. So putting it there that how do we become further engaged with you on this particular take and get it to its final conclusion. Kia ora.
You want to respond? You want to respond to that? Thank you, Anne.
Mr. Chair, through you, we've made the decision.
Oh.
We've okayed it and sent it out for consultation as part of the long-term plan.
Right.
So it's there. So we've accepted. I'm just trying to think of whether we made any significant changes to it. So it's there on the table for us to have, for you to have a good look at it and come back to us with any changes or agreement that you want to make.
Right. Just a supplementary one, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do understand that. I thought, though, having gone out for consultation, is there any effect that might have in terms of the consultation process? No?
Won't know until the
Until
submission.
it happens, obviously.
And those, it closes on the 15th of April.
And so that's that final outcome that I was talking about, referring to.
Ka pai. Kia ora, Irene.
Kia ora anō. I'd like to think that we're good decision makers here, and sometimes stepping out of the box on making improvements to that actually is a little bit different what we're doing. So I'm going to take a bold attempt on this first one and just say wai maria koutou, and that I think we're very lucky to be sitting here with the commissioners today in this current form. What this has identified for us as Tangata Whenua representation and council committees identifies what we've just come through and where we are now. What we're saying is that, is there a better way to do this? And this is what this report is saying to us here. It's not what else can we do, but can we do this better? So over this period of time, we've had a great process that took the opportunity to find the best of the best out there who can come in and do this role. We got them to a stage where we got them into the committees, yes, and that was working really well. Unfortunately, that has changed. So we now sit at a place. Can we actually make those changes even better in the current situation that we've got? So what we're saying, we'd like to utilise the process we've just come through with the cream of the crop that we brought through, and how we can actually capitalise on that. Because we understand the process that we went through to get that. And we don't want to see it go to waste. So, as I said, I am going to take that step and to support us moving into that space, and in regards what does that look like. I do think we actually need the best of the best sitting around here to get our heads together. And what that looks like to have the seesaw balanced. Yeah, I understand the numbers, but when we put good heads to sit at the table together that are even or that are equality, which we're talking about, I think it's a good move. I think it's strong because we're not thinking selfishly just about what that is for me. What is the best outcome for us all? So I just wanted to put that on the table. Secondly, I want to just talk about the key priorities. And I want to talk about the three waters. And it's something that that we did venture into last week that actually showed us the huge work that needs to happen. Understanding the environment that we're in regards to the councils that we have within our rohe, but also iwi in the rohe as well, is actually to approach three waters, we need to be united. Especially the approach from Māori is that we cannot look at our own territorial boundaries that we have within council boundaries. We must look across that and what that looks like. I've got a little quote on my paper here, and it's about mahitahi. It's about working together and strategically thinking what is the best positioning for us to actually understand and get ourselves in front of this water issues. I'm appreciative that Tauranga City Council can be great leaders out there, and coming forward is probably one of the first out there to actually look at engagement. I think that's great and future looking, but then in that future we must also, for tangata whenua, look what's best for us. And what's best for us is that sitting in the next boundary and the next seat actually is not Tauranga City Council, is Western Bay District Council, that our iwi boundaries are all the same, but not in council. So those are some of the challenges that we need to look forward to and coming forward when we sit and do that planning. I think this is a good place to start to have that, because we sit at the top of the maunga. We're able to see the bigger picture, but also have that discussion of actually making those changes that impact at the grassroots. In saying that, Māori will actually flip that and put us at the top of the maunga, that the base of it is what actually thrives there. And I think when we put them side by side, there you will see how this can happen. So in regards to our report that's been put together, these are the issues for tangata whenua that we challenged with in regards to the system and process that we have today. I think we're starting to talk about those changes now. And I think we need to be courageous in taking that step forward and making further changes to ensure that the moving landscape that we've got moving at the moment is that we're moving with it. So in saying this, I look forward to good heads coming together and the best options in going through, not only for Tauranga City Council, but katoa. What this actually means, not only as we sit here as Tauranga Moana Bay of Plenty, but also New Zealand. It's going to impact us widely. And since we're such good leaders out there and we're looked upon as the leaders out there, it's a great opportunity. I just want to say, let's be bold and courageous and make those changes that have happened and keep going.
Kia ora, thank you for your call. Buddy, did you want to say something? Or you've forgotten?
Kia ora. Is that on? The Three Waters, I think, is the approach that we took to the Three Waters thing. I think it's something we should be looking at with council jointly in terms of other initiatives like that. For example, I was in Wellington recently, and somehow I got hooked up with the people who, on behalf of Minister Hipkins, are coming out to the countryside with their open government series of seminars. So it would be, they're saying, well, Māori need to know about this, or I'm saying to them, well, the wider community need to know about this as well. So is there an opportunity to work with Tauranga City Council in particular to make sure that those government departments, like DIA, which was the Three Waters one, accept that Tauranga should be a stop on their tour. We are now the 5th biggest city in the country. We have a Māori population commensurate with that number. So, pay us some attention, please. Probably because of a personal connection with Adrian Orr at the Reserve Bank, he's quite happy to send his people here as well to brief us on new policy initiatives that come out of the bank. There's a report on Māori business, which the Reserve Bank are happy to send someone here. But we just need a bit of coordination at our end to help set that all up. Rangipu is probably a good vehicle for that to happen, but we don't have the resourcing. So we'd like to, I'd like to in particular, I'm sure my colleagues will support me, like to start talking with our council people, with Gareth's team, for example, about how can we work together to make sure these seminars, these workshops, these policy announcements happen in our city, so that our community is aware of what the new wave of whatever is coming out of government in particular. Kia ora, that's all I had to say.
Kia ora. Sorry, one last thing for me, and it's been a big bugbear of mine I've been pushing. It's not on here, and it's infrastructure that's leading to Māori land. It's a top priority for us, but we realise it's a long-term goal because it won't happen overnight. But to me, it's a top priority to get there. So I'm looking at these new water entities maybe being able to have KPIs or even within the city plan about how we're going to get or progress infrastructure to Māori land, because we talk about it and affordable housing, but just nothing gets done. So I'd like to see that at the forefront, but also knowing that it's going to take a long-term objective to get there.
Boy, any further questions? No further questions? Thank you. So we'll have a move and a second that we receive this report. Moved by Matida that her report be received and endorsed by Puhirake. All in favour? Carried unanimously. So, discussion of late items, or unless somebody suddenly thought of something while we were sitting here waiting for your turn to speak and you've forgotten. Buddy, I thought there would be somebody. Kia ora.
Never let an opportunity go by. Kia ora. Last year we put together a proposal for upgrading the Tiranga Reserve, which is on Paispa Road. It's a property that's jointly managed by Ngāi Tamarawaho and the Tauranga City Council. The funding proposal, I think, was sent off with David Cunliffe to Wellington. So I'm just checking on progress with that, Mr. Chair. I'm just conscious of the fact that the anniversary of the battle at Tiranga is coming up in June. We have two of the local schools keen to get into the planting program that we've got planned for the reserve. So it would be helpful if we could get some further direction from Council as to where our funding application has got to. Kia ora.
Hi, buddy. I'll ask the man on my right hand here, Mr. Grenfell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that was under the Caring for Communities package, I think you're referring to there, buddy. We're struggling to actually, if you like, find the right touch points in central government with caring for communities. So there was quite a flurry of activity towards the mid to late last year after COVID, because the Caring for Communities package was part of a post-COVID investment arrangement. And it seems that the wind has gone out of it to a degree. And so we can follow up with Wellington to see whether or not there isn't an agency down there that might actually support this. So.
Oi. Well, this is kind of a late item, but it's also a summary of our hui today. I don't know if the commissioners knew that we, I think, established around about 2002, our Tangata Whenua Collective. And was after some discussions and that we were invited to form this committee, Tangata Whenua Collective and the TCC. So the statement or the whakatauki we used at the time was Rapu te huarahi whānui, hei ara whakapiri I ngā iwi erua I te whakaoroko tahi. So seek the broad highway that will unite the two peoples toward a common goal. So we looked at that and thought at that time that was appropriate, because there was also pre-European that two peoples needed to come together and be united. That was the Mātātu Waka and the Takitimu Waka. So we were talking about ourselves, so we can't unite ourselves. How can we unite the city and be part of this? And so just looking at that today and thinking about what we've been talking about, what's going to be good for us as a Māori is going to be good for the whole city. We might have to just change that to Rapu te huarahi whānui hei ara whakapiri I ngā iwi maha, the whakaaro tai. So seek the broad highway that we will unite the multitudes of people that now dwell in Tauranga Moana. You know, so that it's all inclusive. You know, that's 20 years ago that we've almost done that, so it's time for change. Just like it was a change of council change, so it's a good time. All commissioners here. So also just maybe a little comment about, it's supposed to be a formal meeting, but it's kind of informal in different times. So I'm looking at that, the three charts on the wall that talk about the Treaty of Waitangi. So when I'm sitting here, I think, well, you know, it's a partnership. Our partnership and our participation together, that we need to use processes from both iwi to make this happen. I know the standing orders that we need to follow that are formal, and I know that also we can be a little bit more relaxed in our relationship with each other, because it helps to build our confidence and our trust in each other. So I might feel like, it might seem like I'm a little bit informal at times when I'm supposed to be formal, but since I've given up wearing a tie, because I used to wear a tie, and I looked at all the councillors, they all came in with no tie. And I thought, what's going on here? So after Rawiri did the haka in Parliament, I just said, okay, man, I'll follow you, and I took my tie off as well. So now only Māori's left. Yeah. Oh, sorry, 3. But I understood it was a symbol of, a phallic symbol of male white power domination, so take it off. I didn't Google that either. There's a cowboy. It's on my horse. Kia ora, Bill.
Look, I don't know. I don't know the detail of it, but I guess what we could do is pick it up and potentially deal with it as part of a long-term plan process.
Okay, with no further comments, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I'd just quite like to pick up on the Three Waters and wonder if, I was there on Friday. I think it would be quite helpful for us to have a discussion about Three Waters, what the council's been doing, get some feedback from what tangata whenua thinking. It's a really complicated, it's a big change. And I agree with the comments that it would be far better if we were approaching this together, with a united voice. I mean, I know that Marty and the team have been doing a lot of work with other councils. I'm not sure whether there's been the cross-iwi work done in the background, but I just think it would be helpful, maybe when we have that next meeting at the marae, that we get the flavour from Whenua as to where they are with all the reforms, and have a good discussion on it.
I think next week or sometime soon, the Regional Council are holding a meeting at Whakatane, and one of the guest speakers there, or one of the presenters, is Willie Te Aho, and he'll be speaking on waters in general, so you know who Willie is and how he can be very challenging. So if you want to turn up. Hello. Kia ora, mate. Thank you.
Sorry, it's getting lonely over here. I thought I'd interject. No, just awesome to hear the kōrero about trying to have a joint approach on Three Waters, and obviously a number of our mana whenua reps have been involved Thursday and Friday, and also in the previous hui, if you remember, at the Surf Club when it was first announced that these reforms were going to take place. Thought it might be worth updating what we have been doing to try and support that involvement. So one of the things we did is that the Rangapu have used part of their budget to actually get members across to Rotorua on Friday so that they can be well informed, and you're seeing the benefits of that today. But also our waters team, led by Stephen Burton and under Nick's guidance, Nick Johansson's guidance, have a dedicated Māori engagement strand that has been invested in, and we're actually going through the procurement process at the moment to procure a suitable entity to undertake that, and I expect that will give us a lot of guidance and resource some of the involvement of mana whenua to then tell us how they'd like to be involved to partner up going forward. So I think we're all thinking along the same lines, so we should see more detail come through.
Oi. Well, thank you for a positive meeting this morning, contributions from everybody. Appreciated that, and especially appreciate the presence of the commissioners here today, and the way you've shared, and the way you've listened, and we look forward to many more gatherings together during your duration here. I'm related to Nanaia Mahuta, so if you want to stay a little long, I can have a little whisper to her. So, we'll call this meeting to a close, and nāsi puhirake. Kati tō tātou hui, kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everybody for the discussion and engagement we've had today. Nō reira, kei noi tātou, let us pray. E tō mātou matanuatarangi ki a tapu tōingo, e pā e whakawhita ana mātou ki a koe, mō tō manaakitanga ki a mātou. Ku hui mai I tēnei rā mō ngā whiti kōrero o wanganui I a tātou mō ngā take o te kaupapa nei. Kia tau ki a tātou katoa, te atu whai o tō tātou āriki ahu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amen. Kia ora tātou, pai mari.